Hey everybody, how's it going? Thanks again for joining us for another Church of True Christ live Sunday sermon. We have a pretty interesting topic we're going to break down today. But first, of course, as always, let's start off with the Our Father direct from Aramaic translation prayer. If everybody just wants to bow their heads. O birther, father, mother of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. Focus your light within us, make it useful as the rays of a beacon show the way. Unite our eye candy ears so that we walk as kings and queens with every creature. Create in me divine cooperation from many selves, one voice, one action. Grant what we need each day in bread and insight. Forgive our hidden past, the secret shames, as we consistently forgive what others hide. Deceive neither by the outer nor the inner. Free us to walk your path with joy. From you is born all ruling will, the power and life to do. The song that beautifies all, from age to age it renews. Amen. All right, everybody. So this week on the topic of conversation, we have what we would call the zombies, the asleep. We deal with them in our everyday lives on our spiritual evolution. They are part of the greater general collective. But one of the things that we deal with and we encounter is it seems like there's some kind of mass hypnosis going on with this general collective. And we see this hypnosis pull our general collective towards different distractions. And so, actually, I'm going to hand it off to Diana here. She has the whole topic laid out for us that we're going to be breaking down today. So, Diana, why don't you inform everybody about this and this mass hypnosis, and almost like there's some kind of sorcery or magic that's being used on our general collective that they are unaware of.
Yeah, 100%. And you did a good job there summing it up because it is a mass hypnosis and it is a taking over of these people. So, like, we call them sheep, but the truth is, it's like they are taken. They have been taken. And we're talking billions and billions and billions of people. And, like, often when we think of these people, we think the ones in our lives that are combative but like overall in my life, like most of the people in my life are overall intelligent. Even if they're not on board, they're still intelligent and there's still like some life happening there. So like there's many different sections of reality that I think a lot of us, especially in this awakened community, forget about the complete general population, like the complete, like the fans. Think of them as the fans because there is so many layers of dimensions that we live within. And there is so many beings that feed on our energy. And we talk about this a lot, but the actual implications of what this means for billions and billions of people throughout the entire world is alarming. Like in China, you have the actual government that the people are supposed to worship. In Korea, they also have a pretty crazy government, but their main issue, and they're using it to flood into America, but they already have, it seems, the majority of their population like on lock, like an enormous amount of people with this whole K-pop thing. But it's not just K-pop. You can just see it so clearly with K-pop and the way these people just gush over it. But even myself, I went to a My Chemical Romance concert when I was younger, and there was all these even younger girls because I was in, I don't know, like I wasn't that old, like 2021, but there's all these other girls, maybe they're the same age, I just couldn't relate, passing out, just passing out because they were so excited. And you know this with Elvis and the way the girls went wild. And Elvis is such a good example because what he did actually sent ripples through the entire world. It took that Puritan age that they were trying to force everyone in and just rocked it. So that was definitely chaos magic. You can't say it was necessarily all bad, but Elvis
Mhm.
himself was controlled by loosh harvesting entities, whether you call them demons or whatever you call them, because there's so many entities that aren't even necessarily like the darkest of malevolent evil, but they are still out to harvest us. And then you even see this in the regular church. And now, especially with the evangelical movement and the bans that the churches have, They're doing the same thing. You see these mega churches. That's why I love my favorite show, The Righteous Gemstones, is shows these megalithic churches and how these people just fall in and give themselves away is really what it is. They are giving themselves away. And it's so huge. It's so enormous, and it's something we often overlook when we think about where we're going in this future, where we're going with splits and timelines, because it's not just two. Like, there's so many different things fighting for our loosh, separating us off in all these different camps. Like, the people that like K-pop aren't even going to vibe with the people that went for Elvis. Elvis still holds power today. He was that powerful of an entity. People talking about him still being alive. You're probably sensing the beings that were controlling him is why you think he's still alive, because he had a very powerful entity, perhaps multiple, because this is what people don't realize, is multiple things can fuel up and take advantage of a situation. So really today we're just discussing what can we do about it? Is there anything we can do about it? And how do we find our own sovereign discernment? How could we help them find our own sovereign discernment, and then just go from there?
Don, what are your thoughts before I hop into mine?
This is actually something Sam and Kirsten and I were talking about. We actually just touched on the NPCs, or what they were saying is, like, a lot of these people that seem to be NPCs, or whatever you want to call them, asleep or whatever, are actually biological, physical beings that used to have a soul, but a lot of the souls have just checked out. Right? They're still attached to source in some manner, but the main aspect of the soul is like, no, I've had enough of this, I'm leaving. Right? That's the consensus that we came into on why there's a lot of what I would call blank people out there right now. And that's also a byproduct of, again, I hate to sound like a ranting lunatic, but the sociological construct that puts us so far into that autopilot state of mind, right? I actually have a fair bit of experience with hypnosis and a pretty good understanding of how it works, right? So if you get people into that dull drudgery, basically a theta state of mind almost, like, you just have to get them broke down, worn down, tired enough that everything you suggest seems like a good idea, and they stop attaching or even processing thought for themselves. It'd just be like, oh, my phone told me to do this. Oh, my GPS told me to do this. Like, I even catch myself doing it at work. I think less and less for myself. And that's all a part of this, is they're detaching us from our true self, the thing that is supposed to be thinking, the thing that is supposed to be creating, the the us that is supposed to be experiencing this reality is very slowly being pushed out of a lot of people. And that's my take on it. And as far as the K-pop thing, I haven't done much study on it, but holy cow, I saw a car in Calgary, and I mean a brand new car, and somebody decked it out as a K-pop mobile. I don't even know what the hell K-pop is, to be completely honest. I'm that age. But, like, I saw this and I'm like, what in the fruity pebble crap is that? Because it was just this weird cartoon. It would look ridiculous to me. But no, I see the obsession and that, like, worship of that industry, even here in, like, rural Alberta.
Well, one of the things this brings up to me, so I've talked about this on my shows before in the past, but let's look at the Gnostic concept of the three kinds of souls that exist here in this earth plane. So this is a theory, a spiritual theory that's existed for a while. So you have three different types of souls. You have pneumatics, psychics, and hylics. Okay, pneumatic souls would be like us. You know, the people having this conversation here, people who are on their spiritual evolution, those who were born awake, born with that divine spark already activated, already rekindled. And then you have the psychics, which are kind of like in between. The best thing I can say about a soul that's a psychic is most of the time they entertain the spiritual, but they find their source of comfort in the physical realm. And that's often where you'll see them kind of retract back to, if they kind of break through a layer that's maybe a little bit too much for them, or, they kind of get to a point in their spiritual evolution where they're having a certain level of realization that might be too much. We can often see them kind of retract back into the physical. And then we have the hylics, which are what you would call NPCs, but I will call them energetic manifestations of societal Maya, which is the false matrix reality. So we often kind of encounter this, when we're talking about the masses. Of course, we're a collection of all of these different types. Now, do I put 100% stock and faith in these three types of souls? No, because I believe that anybody can rekindle the divine spark, but nonetheless, we have a lot of unaware people walking around. That's number one, what I'm going to say. And how I think that this comes into being, look at the way that our society is set up. We are so spread thin and we are so exhausted all of the time. Anytime something good starts to get shown to us, that's kind of a distraction from being spread thin and exhausted all the time, it seems like the general collective buys into it. And this is where I feel kind of compelled to bring up revelation of the method and karmic retribution. I think these are very two big things we can talk about here today on this show, because this is how they get people involved in this stuff. So let's say, like, K-pop is a loosh farm. This industry is feeding off of the loosh. Well, they can't do it unless our free will is there, right? They can't do it unless we accept that as a collective, or that general collective there is willing to accept that, like, hey, I like K-pop, I'm going to get involved in this, I'm going to look at something like this. So these are where this is how they get the general collective through this. I mean, you look at the way all of our societies are set up. I mean, Diana was even talking about it in Korea and in China. There's a worship, there's a workaholic nature even there too, kind of like that we have here in the States and in Canada, and everybody's so spread thin and worked out. They're just looking for instant gratification. They're just looking for those quick dopamine releases. And of course, we're going to have those parasitic entities that are going to take advantage of this, and this is the biggest thing I talk about a lot. And I know both of you agree with me on this. There is no one sole proprietor of all of the loosh farming, all of the darkness in the world. It is a co-created thing between us through our free will, whether it be through revelation of the method and karmic retribution, and then the parasitic entities that are going to take advantage of it. So that's what's essentially going on is, our society is set up in a way to distract us and to spread us thin from looking any deeper into the nature of our reality or any of these truths, at least for the general collective, not for people like you and I. And then you have the parasitic entities that are taking advantage of these quick dopamine releases. This quick instant gratification of going to a concert and listening to this music and partying all night long and drinking, the deal. But let me hear the rest of you guys' thoughts.
Yeah, 100%. And revelation of the method is exactly what it really is. And it's funny because we're seeing these countries like all step into the first world, right? Like not that long ago, even when we were born, like we never heard about Korea being in an industrial revolution. It wasn't something that was told of us. And then all of a sudden, bam, they're in more of a future than we are in a lot of ways. And talk about working mentality, like the Asian communities have that more than North America. Like the work.
Oh,
The work
In those
Well,
cultures
there we go.
where that's all you are is what you do and how hard you work. And think about what that does to the actual soul. There's something so deep in there that's going to need to be fixed. And they go to the wrong sources. They go to these drug sources of these outside influences. And then what better through song? Because song is a way to hypnotize people. It's a way to really like serenading, like that serenading word, song, music is the ultimate way to brainwash someone through a song. So that was one of the things I learned. That's why I made music, because music is so important to have good words. And then this is okay. So yesterday I was just thinking, because like years ago I heard that there was like 1 trillion angels to each human, and I was like, like super line up, but we've heard that before. But then I was like, I wonder if it's 1 trillion entities, and the way that the layers of entities work, like a guy in section 5 entity world might not even see section 10, so they're interlayered as well, not even necessarily seeing each other. So what we're dealing with here is so ingrained and so deep, to the point where I don't want to say like we can't do anything about it, but that's just, we can't physically go storm the gates and shut it all down. But there has to be something that we can do with awareness. But how do we like broadcast that out to them, to be like, you are being brainwashed, this isn't real? Like, especially like the K-pop's the best way to look at it, because in America, they actually choose to sell their soul. Like, it's really gross. Like, the people in America, all those like, oh my God, I don't even listen to it whatsoever, but it ends up crossing. I don't even watch media, but somehow I know about all these really, really scandally clad women rappers that like give out the worst messages you could ever imagine. But these women chose that. They chose that. So they are a part of the demonic structure themselves. In K-pop, and I might be biased because they're so young and I feel for children, but in K-pop, these children are often taken. They are slaves themselves. They are forced into this. Their parents can sell them into it. Some of them might choose to join, but on a large part scale, these K-pop people that they are watching are slaves themselves and have been brainwashed themselves. They're forced into surgeries. If they get a dance move wrong, they're beaten. Like, there is so much behind the K-pop world that is so dark and so malevolent that like us in the North American area, like to see that, because we have a higher standard. I mean, we have the child trafficking ring that everyone wants to pretend doesn't exist, but overall conditions in North America are much better. There's a reason the Squid Games came out in Korea, because they have like, they're coming out too fast kind of thing. Like, they're evolving so fast, yet they still have a lot of archaic old styles. And in a weird way, it gives us kind of a vision of what older gods look like in the modern world. And I know I'm not being a fear person. It is alarming. And there's something we can do about it, though. There is something, and it comes with awareness.
All right, I would agree. Don, what are your thoughts on that before I hop into mine?
I actually wrote down a couple of quick things, and one of them, this is almost a Simpsons did it kind of topic, but this time it's South Park did it, right? South Park actually did an episode about the Jonas Brothers being run by Mickey Mouse, where they're sexually stimulating the audience so they become addicted to the genetic reaction of the music, and then have them do these virginity pledge rings. It's just, and Mickey Mouse turns into this giant monster. There's a fucking stretch, right? Pardon my language. There's a stretch, right? But no, they actually laid it out. And I think that was one of those, they have to tell you things, because like it just, like everything we're talking about right now, all of the cues in the music, all the vibration frequency to cause the stimulation, to put out the addictive qualities, to have the children fainting in the audience, it's all biological, and they know exactly how to manipulate. And we have Fearless Frankie, who knows all about the frequency of music. I'm sure he could chime in on what you can do to a biological human with just frequency. So absolutely, you can make people addicted to the sounds and lights and vibration of the music that's coming through to them, right? And to Steven's point, even public education only gives us enough that we don't question what we're taught, right? We're taught just enough in public education, like, yeah, that makes sense. Now I'll go be a good worker bee, right? Because you guys taught me everything I need to know. I'm gonna go now. And we never question anything, right? The general population. I'm not talking about the people in this room, right? But it really is like that. And as far as the things that we can't perceive out of this perception, it's almost like we need those they live glasses or some type of device like that. Because if we do actually want to grab the little, and again, Frankie knows all about grabbing the little bastards in another dimension, we need to either
The source cake.
Yes, we need to up our perception or come up with some kind of they live type scenario, because yeah.
No, I'm 100% with you, man. And this is the actually one of the biggest ways they get people people hypnotized with this kind of music is the beats per minute this music is at a lot of the time is the beat of the human heartbeat. You're looking at 70, I think it's like around 68 to 70 beats per minute. This is around what the human heart normally beats at. And with that being said, they're using 440 hertz. They're using one of the biggest things I've been starting to discover, how is a lot of this outside technology that we have actually is a mirror of the human body. Has a basis and almost a format of certain things we have in our body as far as the systems, the heart, the spine. I was talking about this on my show last week on Metaphysical Anatomy on how the Hadron Collider and particle colliders are very similar to the human spine and how they operate. So you look at this music having the beats per minute of the human heartbeat, how it's taking an aspect of ourselves and putting it into there and being used against us in that fashion. So this is kind of one way that they do this. As far as what we can do, so this is one of the things that I've spoken about when it comes to these topics like this. In fact, I've talking a lot of people down. So I know a lot of us, we just want to have the French Revolution and we just want to barge in there and we just want to like start flipping the tables and we want to start like, look at this and like hold it in front of their faces and things like that. But here's the thing, guys, we're dealing with a psychological, mental, and spiritual battleground. Okay. And, we at this point in time, we cannot have a French Revolution-esque kind of unveiling for the greater population because what's going to happen is that's going to be used against us, bottom line. So let's say actually there was one guy I was talking about, Ben Davidson. This was a while ago, about a year ago. He wanted to basically have an armed revolution and he wanted to take like about 3,000 people and wanted to go march on some kind of state capital. And I was like saying like, absolutely not. This is not a good idea because what's going to happen is they're going to discredit us even more. They're going to discredit our message even more if we do it this way. So and that's basically it. You got 3,000 people out of the lot here in this country, which is 380 million, almost 400 million people in the United States. A mere 3,000 can be laughed off. A mere 3,000 can be discredited. And this mere 3,000 can cause more rules, regulations, restrictions on free speech, all of this other stuff that's going to come forth if we do something like that. So as much as we want to kind of just go and pull the veil up and kind of forcefully show people this, we can't do this. So what is a good way that we can actually start to bring this to people's attention? I'm going to say as hard of evidence as we can find for this music manipulating people. This is the thing. We're dealing with a society that thinks that they run off a fact basis, and but we're not dealing with that. This society runs off of a belief basis. Even the ones that are asleep, there's a belief basis. So what you would have to do, at least in this instance, from a logistics way of trying to show people they're being manipulated through music, through media, through movies, through television. I mean, I can't even. So my wife watches those shows, Married at First Sight or, Love is Blind and things like that. And this is the degree on how people are manipulated by movies, TV, media, music, things like that. They were asking all of these women where they get their ideas for how the ideal marriage should be, how the ideal relationship should be. And every fucking single one of them said from TV and movies. Okay, so like this showcases on how very much that this media manipulates people. It manipulates their thought patterns. I mean, how many times were we growing up and we heard nothing you see on TV is real. Nothing you see in the movies is real. It's make believe. So then why are people taking their ideas for how life should be and how life situations should be from something that's make believe? So this is where we would have to kind of start to start showcasing this to people and showing them. I mean, the number one thing I would say is the patent for the television. We could show people the patent for the television. It's on Google Patent. It showcases on how the TV actually manipulates the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, and it actually manipulates our exterior magnetic field, the nervous system, through that way. This is all available on the Google Patent. So this is one thing I think we would have to start doing before we move the spiritual route with a lot of these people, because yes, all of us here, we know that there's a spiritual nature to this reality. Absolutely. And there's these parasitic entities that are sucking off of you, your dukkha, your loosh, because you have an untrained mind, number one. Also, two, is because you're in intense states of emotion that are uncontrolled and unregulated. So I think showing people how they are being manipulated through some kind of factual evidence would kind of be the first opening that we could get to kind of break some kind of ground with the common greater collective. And then we can start moving forward, as they see, with the spiritual nature of everything. But I don't know. I've been talking long enough. What do you guys think about this?
I completely agree. And I would love to see that Google document, because it is actually so factually out there right now, especially for people like us that are looking, but it's like right there. And the whole revelation of the method, like that is an actual, it has a code. I forget the name. You guys might know. It has an actual code name that the CIA created for this whole, it goes beyond the CIA, but created for the revealing of how they wanted society to be. Everything right down to potentially even, I'm just new to this, so I'm not going to die on that cross, but that there is no such thing as nuclear weapons. And that was all fake to begin with. And I know for a fact, yeah, Japan went back and started living in those areas like it was a bomb, but not necessarily nuclear. And that it was the beginning of how they wanted to change our perspective of how we should live reality. And then they rolled out the TV shows and everything, the whole entire media plan, like, so the news, TV, music, everything was put behind this to start boxing us into this narrative that they wanted. And it has a code name, it has a plan. They wanted to keep us small. That's when the 9 to 5 fully solidified in for everybody, because they had the what's it called, the Industrial Revolution, where they took the lower class people and put them into these slave positions. But then they were like, you know what, the middle class is getting a little big and we don't want to compete with that many people that also have means and intelligence, because we all started going to school, we all learned how to read. It seemed like we were all getting smart enough. It seemed like we could all have it all, and the odd person can still cross through that barrier. But if you notice, they're pretty dicey. Like top CEOs, even people like Elon Musk and Trump, they're kind of like they stepped out of the narrative. But how did they step out of the narrative? They clearly had to do something to get themselves out of that position. Where if you just, because look at how we are, right? Look at our lives. So we are sovereign and discerning, and we are waking up and we're trying to think of ways that we can step outside and live our own lives without the tyranny of the government. But like, we have these limitations that, like, there's only so much we can do unless we consciously bend reality ourselves. Which you can do that as the all is mind power, and that's natural. But you can also do it by harnessing energy from other beings and things like that, which we don't want to do, because it's going to any outside being besides Christ, which is why we always say Christ, because Christ is an actual energy frequency. It's the 12th dimension of pure energy that comes down on us. But beyond that, if it's a being that's like Zeus or Athena, those, like, they are going to take a toll. They are going to ask for, some payment there. And these people, they get themselves stuck into it and they get taken advantage of. There we go. Britney Spears. She is one of the most jarring examples that showed us what was happening in North America, especially. Like, I myself was that age. I mean, that was the Britney Spears child. You know what I mean? Like, she was that teenager when I was a little kid. I looked up to her. She was my everything at some point when I was like in grade 6 and grade 5, around there. But like, look at her now. look at her now. And it's a good chance she was always special needs. If you hear her talk, because thanks to social media and finally breaking free from her father, because why do you think they had that conservatory thing on her and kept her quiet? Because they didn't want anyone to hear what she actually sounds like. She's special needs. She's clearly autistic. And that's exactly how autistic girls are. They're very like innocent. Even when they're adults, they sound like they're little kids. And that's exactly how she is. She's clearly a very, very, very talented autistic person. And they used her like she was just a toy. And she was put into that as a child. So she kind of resonates with the K-pop people to me and all those Disney stars. Like, it's like what you were saying earlier, it's disturbing what happens to them. And it's just all part of this like satanic process that keeps us going, and the TV that has molded our minds to think specifically how they wanted us to think. And so they like sexualize women, and especially children at your teenage years. Oh, you're definitely going to drink. Oh, let's have so many plots about not drinking. Oh, don't drink. But then meanwhile they're showing all these kids drinking and having fun, and the kid that doesn't drink and have fun is a nerd, and no one wants to be a nerd. They don't teach you that like you can have fun without drinking. There's lots of amazing things children can do. You don't have to drink, and you don't even have to create this narrative of keep them away from alcohol. Oh no, just don't mention it. Don't have it be part of their reality. Don't pump it up and put it right in their face with rock and roll and fun. Like, there is so many things. And then the destruction of the father, and the bitchifying of the mother, and the fact that they always show the mother with this high level job or some kind of job, and the dad's the idiot, and she's smart, she has to do everything. That's putting women into this overdoing state as well, because women shouldn't be doing that much. We are the yin, we are soft. If anyone should be relaxing on the couch watching TV, it should be the woman, although she'd probably want, and then, but they show her like she's always busy and she's so, no, it's inversion, because men are the doers. Men are the ones who should be busy. If any one of us was to be busy, it's men. That's how the testosterone system works. So again, they've inverted us, and over and over again, every way they could possibly think of to completely twist us up. So now we sit here today going, what do we do to unravel it? Because honestly, we can wake up, but there's so much to unravel in all of society. It's why we think, let's just go to a commune and abandon it. But that's obviously not going to happen. We can see that's not happening anytime soon. We've talked about doing it ourselves. It's just not happening. I think because the divine wants us to fix society.
I just want to say one thing before I hand it up to Don, but like you were saying about the inversion of women, look at also the conditioning they put forth in these movies and these TV shows. Look at the main character. They put these character traits on a pedestal. You have egotism, narcissism, sociopathy, psychopathy, and a lot of these main characters in these TV shows and movies, they have these dark triad personality traits, and they make it seem like it's the cool and edgy thing to do to be egotistical, narcissistic, sociopathic, and psychopathic as well. And this kind of bleeds through into the programming of the general collective. And that's why we start to see these traits kind of start to manifest themselves in our greater collective. I mean, look at all of the TikTok. I mean, look at all of social media. It's plagued with egotism, narcissism, sociopathy, and psychopathy. So we can also see how this is a direct transference and correlation on how the TV and the movies actually manipulate the public too. As you can see, the personality traits they put on a pedestal in these movies and TV start to manifest in the greater collective. Don, go ahead, man.
I was just going to kind of go off of what you were saying earlier, because I absolutely agree. Like, our general population is in such a material science mindset. That's why, like, when I had you and Frank on and we did that show on the actual frequency change, when it went from 432 to 440, I was trying to bring forward this scientific evidence, like, hey, even on a biological level, this causes a reaction, right? 432 is the harmonic frequency of the human body, right? You go up to 440, it actually causes irritation. So it's not that far a stretch of imagination that, like since World War II, when that actually came out, if you do a little bit of reading, that was actually a Nazi agenda that was brought in to shift the frequency, which is why I got a slap on the wrist for saying that on the show, right? It literally is. Look it up. It was on their own website. That's what I got a strike for, but it was repealed. So I was right. Um, But no, it was actually like it was a Nazi agenda right after World War II that they changed the frequency not only of music but of the radio signals on which it's carried, right? So even our television broadcasting, our radio signals, all of these things are changed to an irritating signal, right? So as that's developed over time, how far-fetched is it? It's like, okay, this frequency of 440 will tick them off. If we do this at this many beats per minute, we can get them into this state of mind. It is literally mass hypnosis mind control, right? That's why we listen to frequency tones to change the way our fields are acting, right? I'm pretty sure everybody that's listening to this has listened to frequency music at some point to try to adjust what your biological function, your emotional function, how you're feeling, how you're acting, how everything is functioning. We know it, so of course they know it. It's by no stretch of the imagination possible, right? And when you guys were talking about television shows with those dichotomies of like certain characters, Spinja and I have gone over this multiple times on the things we watched on television that were popular back in the day. And if you go back and watch things like Golden Girls or Friends, these are some of the
Mhm.
most toxically programming shows and they were it in our day. Like, it's no wonder we're so messed up. Watch a couple of episodes of Friends with an open mind and see how toxic and just messed up all of those characters are. And that's what they had a generation of people striving to be. Were you a Ross? Were you a Joey? Are you a Phoebe? Are you a Monica? No, these are terrible role models,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want to be a Blanche or Rose either because they're freaking nuts too. Like the things that they put out for us to follow for the examples. And back to the meathead males, the Simpsons, the Flintstones, like the honeymooners, it's all the same guy, right? And the women are all the same women, the smart quippy ones that are the brighter of the two. It's all predetermined, and that's how we're supposed to act, and that's what's happened. And they have figured out how to do this through these devices, through these frequencies, through this programming. And it's not until you can actually go, look, here's some facts. This is what happens to you biologically when you listen to these frequencies at this resonance, blah, 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 blah. And then people might start to go, oh shit, what else are they doing?
100%, man. And that even kind of, that dives into how manufactured our reality truly is. I mean, we're kind of laying it out here on the table. We're talking about how they're programming us through this music, these movies, these TV shows, and they're manufacturing our reality through this as well. And what we're even talking about here too is, I hate to pull a page out of Emily Moyer's MK Ultra book, but it really is. We're looking at the broader spectrum of MK Ultra. How they utilize. So one of the biggest things about MK Ultra was they were looking at human consciousness and human behavior. It wasn't just to make Morturian candidates or Manchurian candidates. You know what I mean? That's not all MK Ultra was for. But this was actually a huge study on human consciousness and what interfaces with human consciousness at these deeper levels of the psyche. So when we start going there, we can kind of see how this is manifested and played out, like you were saying, Don, setting these personality stereotypes forth in these very popular sitcoms, or putting these personality types in this pop star or this rock band or anything like that, how they want to distribute these personalities and these behaviors into the public. Because the one thing you were saying earlier in the show, Don, is you talked about how you just had to, hey Sam, what's up? I'm in the middle of talking. I just want to say hey. But you were talking about how they wanted people just to be smart enough to run the machines and not ask questions. So what they ended up doing is they ended up causing what I would call the subconscious slave and idolatry complex in the greater collective. And we still see it kind of manifest and come forth even to now. And when people see somebody that they portray as cool, who might have these fucked up personality types, like in the greater spectrum of the public eye, people are going to adopt that, whether it is toxic or not. Okay. And it all plays into the fact that the way our society is set up, you brought that up as well, Don, spreading everybody so thin, making everybody so distracted that all they want to do to alleviate this is feeling good, instant gratification hits, quick dopamine releases, all of that, just to put away the fact that they're so spread thin and they're so exhausted. So this is, I'm actually really happy we're having this conversation, because this is showing on how our reality is manufactured. I mean, Diana was even bringing up, our nukes a real freaking thing. And I mean, this is something I've dived into a little bit myself on the back end, because I find it really odd that video cameras were able to survive all of these really intense nuclear tests, being in such close proximity to the blast wave, the heat, the radiation, and things like that. So is it possible that nuclear weapons could be some kind of psyop that was put out in order to keep the general collective in a bigger state of mesmerized terror? It's very possible, man. And that's why we even talk about I bring up panpsychism too, because in the theory of panpsychism, that takes us from our existence here being coincidental and by chance to our existence being absolutely necessary. We have to be here. It's necessary for the universe to exist in order for us to be here. But you have to think, what does it do to an entire collective of people when you tell them that their existence is meaningless, coincidence, by chance? You're just on this tiny little blue rock floating through this abyss. Okay, it causes that nihilism. It causes that atheistic nihilism that starts to kind of manifest. And it's like, well, if our existence is coincidence and meaningless, I don't need to be a good person, or I can do whatever the hell I want, and things like this. And this is what I talk about, guys. We're seriously dealing with a psychological, mental, and spiritual battleground, and we have to start taking the perspective that this is what we're dealing with. Anything they could put forth on us is some kind of psychological, mental, or spiritual attack, and we have to start viewing it through this lens, because if we don't, we're going to continuously, even people in our community, get roped into this. I can't tell you how many times every 4 years I see people in our community get roped back into the two-party system, always getting roped back in because somebody comes along and freaking, I hate to say this, Sam, but I have a different definition for the dangling carrot. And they dangle that they dangle the carrot in front of you. Like, look at Vivek Ramaswamy in the beginning of 2024. I'm going to reveal the truth about 9/11. I'm going to out the corruption. I'm going to do all this. They always send somebody out to cater to your ideology, your narrative, the way that you think, so you get looped back in and you get roped back in. So this is the one thing I think we have to start viewing this as, guys, is we are under we are under constant, I won't ruin the carrot, Sam, we are under constant psychological, mental, and spiritual manipulation. But go ahead, guys, what are your thoughts?
But do you want to go ahead, Don?
Yeah, I was actually going to go back onto the manufactured reality, which is something Kyla and I, like, we deconstruct everything we can about our reality, because neither of us want to willingly participate in being an unconscious creator anymore. So a lot of that is dissecting your life. You don't want to have a life review when you die? Do it now, right? Look where you were made to screw up and how you can go back and fix some of the errors of your way. But one of the things we were talking about, and again, I know we're going to do an episode in August about Rick and Morty altogether. There's when Rick hooks up with a planet and all of the Dupnars start coming in, which are supposed to be his kids, he sets up an educational system that is basically just a grouping of tubes, and it treats each dupnar in a specific way. And it's like, oh, look, we need more doctors, so they go down this tube, and we need more poets, so they're beating the kids in the school, causing the trauma, right? And I'm like, that is the perfect example of what the educational system is, because you will be given specific teachers or sat with certain children to guide you. The public education is run by the military industrial complex. Big shock, right? We are their guinea pigs from kindergarten to 12, and they will put you where they want. They will put you with who they want. And if you resist, they'll probably fail you and push you even harder, right? This is one of the fundamental programming systems of our manufactured reality. I am not shitting on education. We all need to learn things, but when you strip away the stuff that's being ingrained in us that we don't need, like the traumas and the fake friendships and the social, it's just one thing after another. But you can actually pick apart the public education system from the useful knowledge and the public training to function in the manipulated reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And I think you sent me this clip because it's been a while since I watched the show, but I used to watch it years ago. Where Rick and Morty go to a planet, and Rick used to be their god, and I don't even think that's an episode. They show up, he's already the god, and they're like hailing him, and they're all like this, and Morty's like, what? And Rick's like, oh, I taught them it means hello. And then they're just like, go F off, and oh, what did you say to me? Oh, that just means goodbye here. And it's like, it just showed that people will learn whatever they're told.
Yeah.
And it was this huge overarching thing of when the powers that be, so in this case, Rick, when the powers that be tell you anything ridiculous, like think about the world we have today. It's freaking ridiculous. But the powers that be told us it was so. And so we made it so. Like I allow it to be so, and so it is. But in this case, it's they are allowing it to be so. And so, you know what I mean? Because we are being that vessel channel for what they are conducting down as magic. These people, whether they know the depths of it or not, and the topper ones like Hillary and Trump, no, those are both conscious magicians. They're two different kinds of magicians. Hillary is a satanic magician, and Trump is a chaos magician. He uses chaos. Like, all the times Trump said stuff wrong on purpose, and you're like, how are you such an idiot? But you're also clearly very smart. He did it on purpose. That's a trick of chaos magic, where you create dissonance around everybody, including you, the practitioner yourself, and it changes reality. And chaos magic can have its time and place because we do need things to be shaken up. But do not ever think he's good, because he's not. He's selfish. And if saving the world is good for him, he'll do it, sure. But he's always going to do what serves him. And that's how all of these people are at this top level, topper, because it's like not even just the top of the top. Even think about managers, at Walmart. They start to get weird and rude and just controlling. And it's like, I remember being because I worked there in high school. And I just remember being like, dude, you're a manager at Walmart. Like, relax. You probably don't make much more than I do. Like, as soon as you hand somebody that slip of authority, and not everybody, because I've been a manager myself, so not everybody, and that's why I was always well received, because there is a way to, I don't want to say rule, there was a way to be the organizer, the facilitator, the manager, because that word doesn't necessarily have to be any kind of I am the ruler, you must listen to me. And that comes from the manager person itself. So whether they're in politics or business, just organize things. Stop manipulating everybody. Like, it's as simple as that. Just do your job. Set up healthcare. Help with school systems. Like, put the money that we give you in taxes where it needs to go and let it filter through like it naturally should, like most people. And we were all probably one of them at some point in time thought was happening. And we're just like, oh no, they're just dumb. They're just bad at their jobs. Like, that's how it first starts. And then you're like, no, actually, it's much deeper. They are messing up certain things on purpose. They are stealing your money. And worst of all, though, they are stealing your brain power to create reality. And they know it.
Absolutely no. And I mean, I've experienced that before too. And this is where we start getting into real interesting territory, talking about the chaos magic and kind of what I mean, who's to say? So this is the one of the things that I've theorized, and I think Don and I have spoken about the invisible college and the secret orders that kind of exist within our society. And I know there's people out there who have had experiences. I myself have had very interesting experiences with this invisible college and these secret orders that exist. But who's not to say that there is potentially an underlying framework or guideline for the way that this stuff is? I mean, who's to say that it's not possible? Because guys, you have to think here, right? We call this a world stage. That's one of the biggest things I think a lot of us share here in this community. We see it as a movie, we see it as a world stage. So then we have actors in this movie, correct? Also, right? And like I said, I really kind of hate to quote Sam Tripoli because I'm not the biggest fan, but he says that we're in a haunted house. We have people wearing masks. So who's to say that, on a subjective level, that this isn't happening to us as well? We know that there's an underlying framework to this reality, different dimensional layers to this reality. And who's to say that these orders couldn't be setting these framework and guidelines for how these procedures go at these places in order to manifest and cultivate the most amount of energy that they possibly can? I know we're diving into speculation here, but at the same time, you can see Karen is a manager in training. No, that's why I had to say that, dude. But nonetheless, guys, we have to take this into consideration. There is a hidden framework to a reality in the makeup, right? Who's to say that, a lot of these people don't have some kind of plausible deniability? I mean, a great example of this too is, I remember when I had David on my show and he came to find out that there was a lot of top-ranking Satanists and a lot of top-ranking Freemasons that have instilled themselves in positions of the church. So how this is used is plausible deniability, because what if you, just one person, finds this out and you're like, hey, Pastor Jim is a practicing Satanist. He is a top-ranking Satanist. You guys shouldn't be listening to him. And this is where the plausible deniability factor comes in. This is their greatest ally, guys. Plausible deniability. And that's why if you have evidence against their plausible deniability, that makes you the ultimate threat. And then you're really going to start getting messed with and targeted if you have evidence against the plausible deniability. But again, you run into church and say, don't listen to Pastor Jim, he's a practicing Satanist. You're one person. Everybody's going to look at you and be like, what's wrong with you? Why would you think Pastor Jim is this practicing Satanist? It's this plausible deniability disguise they use. So who's to say that this same kind of thing isn't happening in management levels? It definitely is happening in corporate structures as well. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen stories I've heard from ex-investment bankers that are brought to these satanic sex parties and things like this, dude. So who's to say that this isn't happening on every single front? It's not in this financial sector. It could be a basis or a foundation in every single framework of our society. And it's been shown that it has been. So this is something, guys, we need to kind of keep, in our awareness that, we're dealing with an illusion. Overall, we're dealing with an illusionary reality. And in this illusionary reality, there's different layers of how this illusion replicates itself and puts itself together. So thinking that there couldn't be some kind of hidden framework going on, some occult framework that is kind of, or these occult ways that have embedded themselves in business also, and how that's carried, I think we should be looking at that for sure.
I totally agree. And you kind of hit it right on the head, and I'm going to bring it to a 101 level for everybody. Is they know the large majority of the population is in autopilot, and being in autopilot, is just so easily to behaviorally subconsciously program people, right? And we're going to stick with the invisible college here, but like, okay, they've manipulated your reality in order to make you act a certain way that day. And when you acted out in the behavioral pattern that they wanted you to affect the other person's reality, all of a sudden a Walmart gift card shows up in your mail. Well, when I was an asshole that day, it's a subconscious programming. Like, hey, when I was an asshole that day, I ended up getting a Walmart gift card. That behavior must be a positive thing. So I'm gonna adapt a little bit more of that aggressive asshole into my behavioral patterns, and they get you to do it again. And now you're messing with your neighbors, and you don't even realize you're messing with your neighbors. But goddamn, I've gotten like 3 Walmart gift cards in the last 6 months. Right? This is great. There are hidden incentive programs where the invisible college manipulates people's behavioral patterns in order to have them affect other people's reality because they can't do it directly. And I know that sounds like crazy collusion, but the people who run these organizations don't work on an actual financial system. That's just for us, right? They don't function like we do financially. They just, oh, send a black helicopter. A black helicopter goes, we'll hide that in the budget later. That person needs 6 months of gift cards. We'll hide that. You know, that toilet seat actually cost us $1,000. That's where we'll bury the cost of Diana's gift cards for the next 6 months. Okay. But we're going to get her to act this way and frustrate her. So she takes it out on her neighbor. It really is on that level of manipulation. And people are like, that's crazy. There's no such thing. Yes, there is. It's happened to me. I've ran into people in my laneway. I've showed you guys videos of helicopters in broad daylight spotlighting me. Well, all I'm trying to do is clean a goddamn toilet, right? Like it really is that way.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. And because absolutely everything is so controlled. We are like puppets with strings. And even us now, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we act? Because and just let it be, because every single thing we could think to do is going to have strings. Every single thing we can think to go is going to have egregores and rules and things that just try to curate your narration. They don't just let you be. Everything has an egregore, and that's that thing that actual living being that will pull you back into all these different things. Your own family can get one. If you step outside the narrative, all of a sudden, blah, there it is. And then it's funny because the one thing, and this is why my plan is to travel and camp, and that's just because that's what I can think of to be free. You know what I mean? It's hilarious. If my parents used to laugh that I was a city kid, even though I was born in the country and always lived in the country, because I was the snot when we were camping, because my parents loved camping. And I was like, but now that's like all I can think to do to escape. And then it's funny because even there, and here in Ontario, there's a lot of no alcohol parks, but because the narrative has been thrown, and I remember being young, I'm sure we all did it. We went camping and drank tons because alcohol's been thrown on camping as well. It's just all a party. It's just all a party. They're the way they throw anytime there's moments for freedom, alcohol into it. Anytime, when you're a teenager and you, I already mentioned this, but when you're a teenager, you should be creating your sense of self. Instead, you're thrown into drinking and partying, because that's what it comes down to. Is we as the individuals need to sit and think about what society actually needs and doesn't need. What is in us as everything's in us as programmings, but it's not like we have to throw everything out. It's what can stay, because we love music. Music has been a part of human society. Honestly, it's how the universe is created. So it's really the original of creation, literally. So music being a part of our reality, that's good. We should have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of music. But the fact that it needs to be calibrated correctly, and this is where they say your dollar counts, and where you put your dollar and where you put your attention, where you put your focus is unfortunately, unfortunately, the only thing I can really think that we can do and bring awareness like we are. Bring more knowing, tell more people. And honestly, if they hate us for it, oh well. So I'm always saying, just get fired. But by speaking your truth, just speak your truth and just keep doing it. Because what we're going to need is that centrifugal force. We're going to need to create that momentum to just roll through this whole thing and to hopefully unplug all the connections that they have inside us, inside society, inside like the matrix. There's a false matrix, but there's also an organic matrix that lays there waiting. An organic matrix that we make with our own minds individually and that we make together. So if we work on this together on what to do going forward, because we keep saying like things like politics isn't working. Okay, then what? That's how Nick and I started talking, is talking about that on X. I forget who even started the conversation, but it ended up just because we know something needs to be created. That's coming through to us because we are creator beings. And this is why they want to keep our psyche so busy with all these useless things that don't matter, like drama with your friends and all these things. Like it just makes you laugh because who cares? Like you see things and like your friends are doing certain things and it's like who cares. Like I remember when I was younger, I stopped. I'm the one who was the dick. She joined the army and I was like super against the army even back then, but it's like who cares? That's her personal life. I should have let her have that instead of being a dick about it, but I was a super dick. But everybody does that to everybody. Like in friends, like you were talking earlier about friends, like that's exactly what they did. They were so codependent and policed each other. But that's something that just society does in general. We police each other for stepping outside of the narratives. And there's just so much unshackling that needs to happen, like an alarming amount. You even see it in the spiritual community, like, oh, you're not spiritual incorrectly. You're not, we all have these like different narratives that we think other people should live under. And the truth is like, we should just say our truth. I think this is how I think it works. But you do you, because your reality is your reality, and how individuated this all is not lost on me. Like this is why, like when I talk about how do we do this, I mean it, because we actually might be able to think our way out of this and just change the timeline and wake up in our own timeline. Maybe we don't need to worry about the billions of sheeples that fall fainting over K-pop stars, sending away their loosh and powering them up to do more things to us. Like, how do you think they have all the energy? Like the things are probably combined. How do you think the politicians have the energy to control us so completely, in the CIA and things like that, in the cabal? How do you think they have that energy? The Hollywood movie machine is probably directly linked. Because think about it, all those movie stars and especially musicians, all that energy, where is it going? Yeah, sure, that one girl has a mansion and whatever, but she's nobody. She probably spends all her time rehearsing, and when she's not rehearsing, she probably has absolutely no life. She's not exactly doing this for her own wahaha means. The person taking the energy, the beings taking the energy, are using that for other things. And that's to completely brainwash us and control us to such an alarming degree. Like you'd be shocked. Like we love Raquel, and the things she talks about, like the way our lives should be, is so far away from where we are now. Like portals and trees and living out in nature and not needing to worry about colder and hot, because we are actually in our own true power, which only happens when we are completely discerning and live within our own selves, because we hold way more magic than we know about. And I've just experienced this just in the levels I've woken up in the last like 10, 15 years. What's happened to my actual magical abilities is substantial, but I'm still feel like I'm still stuck in the system to a degree, even though I don't even have a job. Like I don't pay taxes. Like it's very separated as one can be, with children and living in a town. You know what I mean? Because what am I actually going to go live in the forest? Like, because every forest is owned. You know what I mean? Like I've thought about this. I've given it tons of thought. Where do we go? Everything's owned. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know, but we can think our way out of it. I know that. And we just have to begin.
Well, one of the things, I mean, even kind of touching on one of the things Raquel talks about too, is getting back to nature, getting back to that natural state. That's something I completely agree with 100%. I mean, that's what resets our frequency. I mean, it even talks about on how if you're out in nature for 4 hours and you're just listening to birds for 4 hours, just like greatly reduces your cortisol, greatly reduces your stress levels. It kind of resets the frequency of your body to its own natural rhythm and its own natural state. So, why you have to think, why are they trying to buy up all of this land, all of this, this wilderness, all of this property? It's because they don't want us being connected with nature. So that's number one. And number two is we have to continuously live in alignment with our spiritual values. That's going to be number two, because we have to lead by example in this. And I've talked about this on my shows many times, that it's very hard to discredit people, and it's very hard to smear people who are living in alignment with their values and living their most joyful, abundant life. You can't really discredit or smear somebody who's doing that. They're going to have a really hard time doing that. So that's the number one thing I think we have to do, is we have to start building our rapport kind of with the general collective, because right now, right now the general collective still kind of sees us as tinfoil hat wearing nut jobs. And that's kind of even people in the spiritual community, even people in the conspiracy community. That's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to be strong in our foundation, because people are going to try and test us. They're going to try and poke and prod us. The other thing too, as well, that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to destroy the coincidence theorist mentality. What is the coincidence theorist mentality? Here's an example of that. Oh, it's just a coincidence that MasterCard, the ABC logo, are an occult symbol called the Vesica Pisces. Oh, it's all just a coincidence that this is this. It's a coincidence that the Apple logo is actually working towards is a pedophilic logo, or these different company logos work towards child trafficking and pedophilia. It's coincidence, right? So, I mean, that's the number one thing I think we would have to lay out in that collective sense as well, and showing all of these different examples out and being like, look, dude, this is not coincidence. It's quite literally everything, because this greater collective does not want to admit they've been fooled. I mean, there's people now that I know that know they've been fooled by COVID and everything that happened then, but they will still never admit it. They will still never admit they've been fooled, and they will still ride along with it, because there's too much ego, there's too much arrogance, there's too much Dunning-Kruger effect, there's too much all of this in this general collective. So we would have to destroy the coincidence aspect of this all. And I think if we could do that on a level that showcases, and in an example that showcases that this is absolutely not some kind of coincidence, that would kind of start a snowball effect, at least in my mind. And through this snowball effect, people would start to question more and more and more and more. And really, again, like I was saying, like when it comes to this too, it's all got to start on the subjective level. We got to rebuild some kind of rapport with the greater collective, and we need to show them by living in alignment through our values, and being strong in our spiritual foundation with Christ, all of that, okay, that we're not just some tinfoil hat wearing nut jobs. We're normal people that want to live a spiritually free, sovereign life, okay, that we don't want people telling us what to do. We don't want to be brainwashed, and don't want to be manipulated, and that's okay. We have to show people, we have to find that common ground. I've spoken about this like many times on my show, and we have to bridge that disconnect. We have to bridge, because right now, like I said, the general collective who is partaking in the K-pop, who's partaking in the movies, who's partaking in the TV, the media, all that, they look at us like we're complete nutsos. And we have to kind of lead by that example, show them that we're not complete nutsos here, man. We're just trying to find a better way of life. And we have to destroy the coincidence theorists. Okay. And, because that also comes from the conditioning that comes from, what we've been told and what we've been shown since we've been incarnated into this existence. Okay. That there is nothing greater going on, that we're all just a bunch of freaking dumb monkeys that evolved from these apes. Like, don't look into anything too further, because that's all there is. You're just a dumb monkey that evolved from this primate back. You have nothing divine about you. So like, this is what we kind of have to start working towards. And this is why I think, honestly, one of the biggest things we can do is start to go out and bridge this disconnect between others, man. And like let's say you have a community. Let's say you set up a sustainable community, and you invite people in for the day. to see how you live and to see how you guys interact with each other on a more holistic spiritual level, then you're already destroying and you're dismantling this concept that this is a bunch of tinfoil hat wearing nut jobs. All I see people doing is like hanging out together, growing food, sharing ideas, giving thanks and being grateful to everything that they have, having a good time, laughing, dancing, all of these things. It's very hard to call somebody a nut job if they're doing all of that. So that's where I think it begins. We start on a subjective level. We stand strong in our spiritual foundation with Christ and the divine. We live through these values. We showcase these values to the greater collective, the greater communities that we're a part of. And that starts to dismantle the Karen tinfoil hat and a crown of knowledge, but it starts to dismantle that concept that we are nuts. There could be more to this. And then again, if we're living in alignment with those values as well and being strong in our foundation, it's going to be hard to be discredited also. So, and that's why I'm big on anybody who's a content creator or anybody who's doing anything is to come up here and to showcase the example that you wish to see in this world. I know that both of you do. I know our whole panel does. And we need to see more people in our community start to do this as well. And that's why I'm not high before I hop on shows. That's why I'm not intoxicated before I get on shows. I guess some people do it to kind of help relax them. That's fine. But the presentation here, when it comes to bridging the disconnect, is going to be the biggest thing, because you've always heard the saying that people eat with their eyes before they take a taste. Right. So people are going to take a look at you, and you're gonna and you're showcasing the example you wish to see. They're going to be like, wow, this is a credible individual. This isn't just some dude who wears a tinfoil hat in his mom's basement who just smokes weed all fucking day and things like that. So this is what we're going to have to understand. It's a hard pill for a lot of this collective to swallow, because I get it. I'm an anarchist in my heart. I'm like, who gives a fuck what people think? But at the same time, if we're going to bridge this disconnect, we're going to have to give and take a little bit when it comes to that. So that's just my opinion on where I think it could start. If we really want to get this snowballing out a little bit further, is to understand that we're going to have to present ourselves to the greater collective in a good light. We're going to have to live in alignment with this stuff, and we're going to have to kind of present ourselves to be that example that we wish to see. But I'm done talking. Who's next?
I'll jump in, and I totally agree with your sentiment there, Stephen. It's true. Like, you do have to lead by example. But I also want to circle back to what Diana was saying about the idea, and you touched on it too, about the idea of camping and living within nature, like Raquel was talking about. And I've brought this up before, but I've never got into specifics. I was completely homeless for 4 months at a very young age, by choice. And I can speak from my own personal experience that without residence, bills, employment, or anything, and just living instinctually, it was part of the most freeing experience of my entire life. I had no attachment. I had no responsibility. Had no one telling me what I had to do, when to do it, and where to do it. I was simply free to do whatever I wanted to. Now, I know people go, oh, homelessness, you're a bum. No, I just simply was not in a place to afford a residence and needed to save up money and had no means of making said money at that particular time. So lived by my will and wit. And it was one of the most freeing experiences. And I've actually longed for it at points when I think about the rat race that I'm tied up in our day-to-day lives. It's like, goddamn, sometimes being homeless, sitting on a park bench really didn't feel that bad. I got to think, I got to be, I got to live how I wanted, when I wanted, and where I wanted. And that is one of the fundamental freedoms that us as humanity has been stripped away and reprogrammed to do all of this nonsense and follow all of this bullshit, right? I have actually had that brass ring of freedom, even though everybody would have saw me as a homeless bum. I was freer than anybody that I knew at that time.
I understand, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I resonate with that. I've never done it, but I have a huge van, and I've had this huge van for, I don't know, 10 years. And I just love that, like, if I had to, I could just get in this. I remember one day I was having like a stressful day and I was like, I should just keep driving. I should just keep driving and never go back. And like, and like this just be the life of a nomad, right? Because I think, and then the olden days spiritual person, that's exactly what they became. They would live in their hippie. I would love a hippie van. Oh my goodness. But to just be and to just live and to get to just experience such a freedom, like just thinking about it creates like a swirl of energy. Like we call for it and long for it that deeply. And even that, I mean, I don't want to besmirch this idea. Even that ends up getting like, they won't let you park overnight in a parking lot. Like they won't let you, you know what I mean? Like there's, they have us at every angle. They have us at every single angle. And then you can't even have a discussion. If someone was to come and tell you to move and you say, no, there's no logical reason for this, try to have a logical conversation. No, you'd get arrested and killed if you resisted. Like you would actually be murdered if you refuse to be arrested, because you're like, no, actually, I'm not going to be arrested for that because that's not intelligent. Like that's just not a good idea. Like I'm clearly a good, normal person. Why in the world would I be arrested for parking somewhere? But that's just it. Like people's lives have been ruined for simply standing up and being like, this rule doesn't even make sense. Like why am I living this out? And you see it over and over and over again. Like me and my husband just went to the drive-in theater. It's our last time ever, and I swear it went awful because we shouldn't have been at the movie theater because we know better. But we won't, we like, kids, but no excuse. And the person's telling us, because we have an SUV, because we were in his car, and that we can't be there. We have to go to the back, and we're like, but no one's back there. Like we're not blocking anyone. Like what do you mean? The movie's already started. No one's going to show up. And no, my husband even argued with him politely. He's very polite, but he's intelligent though. And he's having literally this intelligent conversation with this guy. And then finally he was like, my husband's like, I just want you to admit to me this is stupid. I just want you to admit to me this makes no sense. He's saying it very nicely because he's very, very articulate and smart. And the kid, because he's like early 20s, maybe, he's like, okay, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I agree, but can you please move? So we did. It was still downhill from there, and we left before it was even over. I don't remember what we were seeing. And we swore to never go back because the movies are just, I swear to God, they're falling apart on purpose. They're getting awful. Everything is just, I think, because of us waking up, the TV, like sitcoms are like over, like there's no such thing as just regular TV like there used to be. So that's a sign right there. And it is moving more to this, like in your face, like you were saying, Stephen, TikToks, and just like, think about it, like Paris and whatever her name was. I didn't watch the show, but like that was a big deal back in the day. That show that they did, because it was reality TV, they birthed their Kardashians, and then that was just the beginning. And I think that's part and parcel with the age of Aquarius, because it is the age of narcissism, technically. So that part of things, if that's what people want to do, it's like cringe. But at the same time, there's a layer of authenticity there, because those girls, they actually do care. You know what I mean? Like that is their thing. And call it narcissistic, say I don't agree with it, that's fine. But I actually think the move to that type of style of just look at me, at least it's real to a point. A lot of them are faking it. Like my kids have watch like A is for Adelie and things like that, which is reality of these kids playing with their parents with like, no, they're paid by the toy companies. So like there's still going to be layers of falsehoods in there, which usually stemming with money. But we are in that way slightly shifting. But I'm just going to because I think we're closing out soon, just leaving it with that energy that like we just need to keep looking deeply, like even other spiritual people, even people that think you're into conspiracy theories, look and look and look and try to find a point of freedom. Try to find a moment where you're like, I'm free here. And maybe it's in your backyard meditating. But do you really own that house? If you stop paying your income taxes, even if your mortgage is done, do you get to keep that house? No, you don't. And it's so on and so forth. Like your car, can you park wherever you want with your car and do what you please? No. You know what I mean? There is your children. Can you, not that I think we should do whatever we want with our children, because obviously you have your own moralistic standards, but things like vaccines in California, I think it's 100% mandatory no matter what. Like it's way more strict either way. In Canada in the 80s, it was 100% no matter what. But thankfully heroes went and fought against that. And now we can get exemptions. So like, look at where you are and ask yourself, can you ever be 100% free? And the answer is only inside the self. There is no area outside of the self, unless you went to international waters, I don't know, but that you are 100% free.
Well, one thing I kind of want to add real quick, and this is my theory for as to why, movies and TV have become so repetitive, revamped, stale here in the United States. Well, you have to think of this, guys. New ideas are thought provoking. Yes, new ideas cause thought provocation. And since they are aware that there is this awakening going on, new ideas are dangerous. Okay. New ideas are dangerous because we're awakening. And if any of these new ideas come forth and cause us to be, think about things a little bit more deeply, or to, this is causing a snowball effect that they don't want. So, one of the reasons why I think they revamp a lot of these old movies is because they're trying to drag that old frequency. They're trying to drag that into this current day. And you have to think of it too. I mean, a lot of these movies they're revamping are from a time, a very different time. So they're trying to bring that frequency from that very different time here to drug people with a state of nostalgia. Okay, so this is ultimately why I think, when we're talking about the movies and everything, the revamps, like, dude, if I see another Joker revamp, like, how many Joker revamps have we had at this point? Like, and now also too, they're trying to, revamp all of these other different shows from like the 90s, the 80s, all of this stuff too. It's because they're trying to drug people with nostalgia into not thinking of the different possibilities that could exist out there. Because that's, you have to think, we would watch a lot of science fiction. We would watch, we would see this big, beautiful, divine universe in these science fiction movies and things like that. Like, it would put us in a state of wonder. What are the bigger questions out there? What is this? They don't want that. They don't want that. They want you to remember how it was in the 1990s. They want you to remember how it was in the 1980s, the 1970s. They want you to remember, like the member berries from South Park. Member? You gonna remember? Like that's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to drug people with nostalgia, and as to eliminate any new thought-provoking ideas. And for what I'm going to leave it out on here, guys, I kind of laid out a very good plan for bridging this disconnect. That's something we all need to kind of hold in our awareness and put into effect if we do want to get this ball rolling. So, of course, we know it's at an individual level, guys. So always do your healing first. Always work on yourself. Get yourself to that place where you are standing in alignment with your spiritual values. You are standing firm in that foundation of Christ. And then once you get yourself to that place, start showcasing that example to everybody around you. Start bridging that disconnect. Make people understand that people like us, we're not a whole bunch of tinfoil hat wearing nut jobs that are like locked up in this doomsday bunker, like somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma. Not hating on Oklahoma, Kirsten, but that would be the place that you would go in this kind of a thing. And, then, let's start breaking down the coincidences, showing people that all of this occult symbolism, all of this pedophilic symbolism that is being intertwined in quite literally every facet of Americana that everybody has come to know and love. This is not a coincidence. They're not just picking these symbols because they look cool. Showcase this. This is going to be the beginning. Even show people the patent for the television on how it manipulates our sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system from an exterior source. Okay. So like these are the things that we can do to bridge this disconnect, because even though the general collective says they're about facts, no, they're about belief. So you have to show them facts that are going to dismantle that belief. And that is going to be the way that we go about it. And of course, guys, nonetheless, the last thing we always have to do with ourselves is to remember to stay discerning, have personal agency and personal sovereignty in our own evolution, and not get roped back in ourselves. guys. Like, I can't tell you, I'm already seeing the viral thing about the CEO that was caught cheating at a Coldplay concert and how it went viral so fast, guys. I'm calling stage psyop. It took everybody's fucking attention off of everything that's fucking important. And one of the things they did, guys, while everybody was freaking out about the Epstein papers, here's an example, is the US Congress set up the framework for the digital blockchain currency that they're trying to implement here in the United States. So this is why you have to stop falling prey to these distraction psyops, because while everybody was distracted by the Epstein files, the Congress here in the United States just laid out the framework for the CBDC digital currency and how they're going to transfer and swap to that freaking CBDC digital currency. So stop getting distracted, even people in our community. And I'm going to leave it at that.
I guess that leaves it to me, and I guess my last words would be we've talked about the ones that were trying to wake up, but for the awakened, do something out of the routine, shake up the programming, and if something seems off, question it to death, right? Why doesn't this make sense? Why doesn't this resonate? What is going on? Why am I behaving like this? Why do I feel like this? Because if it's not coming from you, it's coming from somewhere else, and that means somebody else is driving, and we all know you want to be in the driver's seat.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks again for joining us, guys, for another Church of True Christ Sunday live sermon. We will be back next week with another topic that we're going to break down. And of course, guys, my name is BG Cast. You can find me and these other two fine, amazing people on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. And you can find me on all major podcast platforms and Rumble and YouTube. And I'll sign it off to whoever wants to go next.
Yeah, you can find me at transcendingascension.com, and all my links are there, but I'm mainly on YouTube.
Yeah. Same as me, it's Don Rogers at March 4th Productions and March 4th Productions on Rumble. And like Stephen said, all podcast platforms under Forbidden Knowledge Network.
Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. Y'all have an amazing Sunday. Go outside, be in nature, get some sunshine, and we'll be back next week. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.